Alright, back inside here at the remote panel, and just want to kind of show you guys how to set up a recipe along with some of the other settings that are available in the Corel controller. So just looking at it, you've got mainly, let's take a look at this up here. This is kind of the navigational point, so you can see that we've got our inputs and outputs, settings, technician, and information. Those are the four key groups that you can get into. And to really do anything in this, you're going to need to log in. So if we go over here to the login button, and we're going to enter our passcode, which is in your manual, and it's basically always the same unless some end user has changed it in the field. So we're logged in now, and we're going to go up to set, and then we're going to press enter. And this is the active setting, so this is how the system is going to run as it sits right now. It's in summer mode. Summer means that it's not going to turn the burner on during spray. It's just going to let the fans run. And the idea there is the booth doesn't have the ability to cool, so if your outdoor temperature is 95 or 100 degrees, you don't really want the burner to be on in that condition. So you can set it for summer, the burner will stay off, and it'll just bring in whatever temperature you have outside into the booth. If it's winter, if it's 20 degrees outside, then you're going to want to come in here and you're going to want to change that over to winter, and that way the burner can come on whenever the operators are in there spraying. And then as far as your run recipe, that's which recipe that you want it to go through during a cure cycle. So you can have it set on A, B, C, or D. And to set it, you just press enter, and that's the one that it'll run. To actually set up a recipe, what you'll do is you'll go down one page, and then you'll select the recipe that you want to set up. So we'll press enter, and I'm not going to mess with recipe A because this user has already set this one up the way they want it. So probably not going to mess with B because I've set that the way I want it. Let's mess with recipe C. So I'll have it set on C, press enter. The spray temperature setting, that is what temperature you want it to operate at during a typical spray cycle. We normally see that between 75, maybe 85 degrees. We'll set it for 78. Just whatever's comfortable for your operators. And then your flash temperature is a setting that it's typically about the same as spray, but the idea behind flash is after you're done coating the product and you walk out of the booth and you press the cure start button, the very first thing it's going to do is it's going to start this flash cycle. And the flash cycle is a period of time to allow the VOCs to flash off of the product. And that value, you're going to have to go to the spec sheet on your paint to know what that value is. It's going to tell you the temperature and time on your spec sheet. We'll set it for 85, and let's just say it's, I don't know, 400 seconds. I don't know what it's going to be for your application. Just check your spec sheet and it'll tell you. 400 seconds. There we go. Enter. Cure 1 temperature. Once again, go back to your spec sheet on your paint. That's going to tell you how long, or actually the temperature and for how long it needs to cure. Let's say it needs to cure at 145 for 30 minutes. Make sure that whenever you get the settings the way you want, you change this to yes so that you can save it. And then you'll go down to the second page of settings, and this is going to be for your Cure 2 and your Cool. Now you don't have to use Cure 2. Cure 2 is for the customers that may need to have two set points. Maybe they want to run it at 110 degrees for 25 minutes, and then they want to bump it on up to 155 degrees for another 45 minutes. So if you need to do that, you can set it for whatever temperature you need and then adjust your time. 45 or whatever. If you want to bypass it, you can just say 0 minutes and it won't even do anything. It'll just move right on to the cool down. Cool down temperature is typically going to be about the same as your spray. You can set it lower if you'd like. And then the amount of time that it cools is usually going to be several minutes. We'll set it for 600 seconds. 600. We're going to save changes. And that's it as far as setting up a recipe. You've finished the first recipe, C. If you wanted to do another recipe, you could come back up here to page 1, select which recipe you want to adjust, and then follow the same procedure for that recipe. Go back to the home screen, just kind of take a look at what we've got. So I've asked it to run recipe A. Right now the system is off. The reason I know that is because there's not a fan indicator or a burner indicator here. We are in winter mode, and the total amount of time for this particular cycle is going to be 70 minutes. That's on A. This is what the customer had set up. I don't want to run that cycle because I don't want to wait 70 minutes for it to finish. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to set it up on recipe B, which is a shorter cycle for just this, this video. 90 seconds of flash, 3 minutes of cure, 120 seconds of cool, so about, what, 6.5 minutes, something like that. Go ahead and set that. Yep, there we go. So now our time, we're on recipe B, time is 6.5 minutes. Before I run the cycle though, I want to show you a few other things in here. If we go to the, I guess let's go to the inputs and outputs section. This is good for troubleshooting. You can give us a call if you're having trouble with the booth, and we can go to this screen and you can give us these values. Like, let's say you're getting a blower start fault. So we could come down here to the digital inputs. Whenever we start, we would see that our start relay would be on. Our airflow would be proven or not proven. And if it's not proven, then we could be either a flow switch or maybe one of the VFDs is faulted out. So that can kind of at least lead us somewhat in the general direction of what could be causing the fault. Same thing, if you've got the optional clogged filter and things of that nature. Analog outputs, so this is, the controller is telling the exhaust VFD to run at 90% right now. So, if your exhaust VFD was stuck at 30 Hertz and this said 90, then there may be an issue with the communication between the PLC and the VFD, possibly a loose wire or something like that. Same thing with the gas valve. If the gas valve is saying 100% but the valve is not opening, the valve could be frozen, could be a defective actuator. So this kind of helps, points you in the right direction as far as what could be going on with any faults. Digital outputs, that just is from the PLC, letting it know what devices need to be running. If the burner is enabled, it'll say on there. That means, if you see an on but the flame controller doesn't light up, then you know that, maybe there's a loose wire or the flame controller not receiving power, could be defective, something of that nature. Then it's back to analog inputs. So that's really just for diagnostic stuff with us over the phone. There's also a technician screen, and you'll have to have a special passcode to get into this, so you'll need to give us a call if you want to make any changes here. But a lot of this stuff really you don't need to mess with because it can affect the performance of the booth and the system, so you really want to get on the phone with us to make any adjustments here. There's one particular setting that a lot of customers like to adjust though. Let's see if I can find it here. Yep, okay, so the shutdown after cool, and it's currently set for yes. What that means is after the cure cycle and the cool down cycle is finished, it's going to go ahead and turn the booth completely off. So in order to start the cycle again, you'll have to come over and press the start button to get the fans to come back on. That could be changed to no, and then the booth would just continue to run after the cycle was complete. So, if you're a shop that's a high production, you're running multiple products throughout the day, all day long, then you may want to have that set for no. That way the booth just keeps running. If you're just doing batches, then I would just leave it on yes. That way, at the end of the day, 4:30 rolls around, the operator can just press cure start and then walk away from it, and a couple hours later it'll just automatically shut off. So that just kind of gives you an idea of some of the technical stuff that can be adjusted. The PID loop and how fast the exhaust VFD ramps up and down can be adjusted in here, things of that nature. The other setting is just pretty much informational. It's going to let us know what software version we have in here. It's going to let us know which PLC is used, the communication speed. It's going to let us know how many hours it's been in operation, powered on, powered off, all of that, you know, hour meter type stuff. And that's pretty much it as far as your 4 options for setting things up. Primarily whenever it's on set, that's where you're going to do everything. Recipes, booth pressure, all of that. I didn't really discuss booth pressure, but let's go ahead and talk about it real quick. So put it on settings and press enter, and then go up, and then you've got your booth pressure set point. So this is where if you wanted the booth to run a little bit negative, then you can just arrow down, set it for, you know, minus 0.05 inches and enter. So now the exhaust is going to run a little bit faster, the booth is going to run a little negative. You're going to notice that the doors are going to want to try to close on their own whenever they're opened up. But you do run the risk of pulling in debris. If a door is open or if something's not sealed very well, you could pull in something from underneath the door that could get into the coating. So we don't generally recommend running negative or positive. We like to see it as close to 0 as possible. So I'll put it back at 0 inches. And now it's going to modulate the exhaust to maintain a just a 0 neutral pressure environment. Over here, this is the alarms. So we don't have any current alarms, but if there were an alarm, this button would illuminate. You'd also have a little buzzer going along with it. And then you've got this data logger as well. So if, you know, something happened last night on the night shift, you can come in here, you can press enter, and then you can see at what time there was a fault. So this flame safeguard fault that happened earlier today whenever I was working through the combustion setup. Then you can scroll back to any other faults that may have occurred. There's a flame safeguard. There's a cure not fully completed. So that was whenever I was testing the door limit switches. Basically, I just put it into a cure cycle and I opened up a door to make sure that it would shut down, because you're not allowed to open doors during a cure cycle. There's a few other faults in here. There's probably a blower start fault. There's a burner enable interlock. So I kind of go through all of them to make sure that they're all functioning properly. That way it's easier to troubleshoot for the maintenance team and over the phone whenever we're helping out. And that's basically it from a setup point on the controller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back into summer mode. I'm going to have it run recipe B, and let's go ahead and run it and see how that looks. So you can't see what I'm pressing, but I'm just going to hit the start button down here on the controller. You'll notice that it changes to start. Now the fans are not going to come on immediately. That's because that damper outside has to be opened and actually proven open before it will let the drives turn the fans on. So we'll give it, I don't know, about anywhere between 30 and 90 seconds, and we should see the fans begin to ramp up. As they ramp up, we'll be able to see that this pressure is going to change, because it's going to be bringing in a little bit different supply versus exhaust during the ramp up. So eventually what will happen is that will settle out somewhere close to 0, because we have it set for a 0 set point. You can hear the supply fan kicking on. You can see we're going positive in our pressure right now, positive 0.05. All the doors on the booth right now are closed. You want to make sure that the doors remain closed during a startup. If they don't, then you may have to adjust the VFD's ramp up time so that you can get the exhaust to ramp up a little bit quicker. See, our pressure is beginning to come down. Exhaust is ramping up. We have our little fan indicator there, so we know our fans are proven. And our pressure is pretty well at 0. It's going to kind of modulate up and down a little bit. That's completely normal. Discharge temperature is 86, so it's apparently about 86 degrees outside, give or take a couple degrees. And basically, once you get this fan indicator right here, you're ready to go in there and begin spraying. Give it just a few more seconds to kind of balance out, make sure that we're going to stay at 0. Alright, so pretty well balanced out. So at this point I'm going to go ahead and let's just say the operator has finished painting the product. They walk out of the booth, close all the doors, and I'm going to just hit the cure cycle. That would simulate going through the cure. So you'll notice we changed to flash. So this is that part where nothing really changes. We have the same airflow and about the same temperature, and we're just allowing the VLCs to flash off of the product. You'll see that we're counting down our time. I think I had that around 90 seconds. So after about 90 seconds, we'll see that flash is going to change over to the Cure 1, and that's whenever the fans will begin to slow down and you'll start to see the temperature come up. Okay, so there you can see we've switched over to Cure 1. I don't know if you can hear the fans slowing down or not on the video, but I can hear them slowing down. You'll notice now we've got our burner indicator, meaning that the burner was proven on, and now we should begin to see the temperature increase. Alright, so you'll notice that we're now in the cure mode, or cool mode. We've got about 2 minutes left. Fans are ramping up. Burner has turned off because we're in summer mode. If you were in winter mode, the burner would stay on, but it would go to the low fire setting. See, our temperature is beginning to drop. That's the end of the cycle. Probably hear that the fans have completely shut off. You can see that we're on stop, meaning that the booth is, fans are not running. The lights did turn back on. Now, if you were to have this set up to, continue operating, the fans would have remained on, and it would have just reverted back to its original spray condition, whatever temperature that was, and whatever booth pressure that was. But that's a typical cycle. Hopefully this video will help set up recipes and give some insight onto how to actually operate this controller.